So you made it through the brutal summer and just in time for you to head into hurricane season. And now you're considering maybe Charlotte, North Carolina is where you need to live. Well, if that is what you've been thinking, then this is the perfect video for you. I'm going to be reviewing all of the things you need to know, the major differences between many of the major cities in Florida compared to Charlotte, North Carolina, and how Charlotte may be the better place for you to be living. In this video, I'm going to review with you the top 10 biggest differences and best reasons to leave Florida and make the move for Charlotte, North Carolina. And of course, I know that the expenses and what it's going to cost you to live in a certain area does make a difference. So stick around to the very end because I've got some very important information that is a massive difference between Florida and Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, if you're looking for all things Charlotte, North Carolina, and South Carolina, you have come to the right channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay up to date on all things Charlotte, including all the things you didn't know you needed to know. Now, if you've been thinking about making the move, I really get calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites every single day from people just like you looking to sell their home either here in Charlotte or make the move from another state or other part of the world. So if that's you, whether it's 9 days or 90 days from now, whether you're moving across the world, across the country, or just across town, I'm here to make your move exactly what you want it to be. All my contact information is in the description below. Be sure to reach out, call, text, email. I'm here for you. So starting with the end in mind, number 10 on the list is going to be home prices. Now, as someone who has traveled across the country, literally in an RV, I do know that there's vast differences in different parts of the country. And Florida versus North Carolina is no different. While both are in the South, which makes things a lot nicer, you're going to see some drastic differences between prices. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be comparing Miami-Dade prices to Charlotte, North Carolina prices, as they're two of the more major cities in each state, both being North Carolina and Florida. Now, if we're taking a look at home values, and you're taking a look at an average price, your average home price in Charlotte, North Carolina is going to be between $400 and $435. Now, that being said, can you find a home at $350? You can. Are many of the homes over $435? Absolutely. And that's where there's going to be the difference between, do you want a condo? Do you want a townhouse? Are you looking for a 3-bedroom or a 5-bedroom? What are your school ratings? There are a variety of prices. But one thing to look at is that you're going to be able to find homes in the $400 to $500 range. Now, if we take a look at, let's say, Miami, you're looking at an average home price of about $579. Now, being we're looking at average, we know it definitely goes up from there. And while there are options below, they're limited. Now, this being said, I do know that Miami does sprawl, as does Charlotte. There's options outside of there. And as far as you go out, the prices continue to drop. Now, I will give props to both cities, as over the last year, we've seen a 9% increase in prices in Charlotte year over year, and those are sold prices. But you're going to see the exact same thing going on in Miami because Florida still has a lot of people moving there. In fact, more people are flocking to Florida than ever before, actually at 4 times the rate that are moving to North Carolina. And that's why you're going to see prices continue to increase in Florida, probably exceeding the rate at which they're increasing in North Carolina, because you have such a high demand. So if you're looking for something more affordable, North Carolina, specifically Charlotte, of course, is going to have what you're looking for. Coming up at number 9 is going to be healthcare. That's right. Healthcare is a little different between Florida and North Carolina, specifically Charlotte. Let's talk about it. While Florida does have a plethora of options when it comes to healthcare, one of the biggest challenges and challenges that I hear from my clients moving from the area is the lack of availability of doctors. Now, if you really think about it, this makes a lot of sense. With the growing age of the population, as well as the growth in population itself, the opportunity and options for getting doctors' visits, as doctors aren't growing in quantity at that speed, are becoming more and more difficult, meaning surgeries are being pushed further and further out. Even getting your annual physical could become a challenge. Now, when it comes to Charlotte, we don't have these issues. In fact, we actually have one of the only level 1 trauma centers in the region, which makes it a really great place to be if you have an accident, which no one ever plans to have. and you need immediate assistance. Charlotte has two major health providers, Novant and Atrium. While both are going to give you adequate care and exceptional care, the biggest difference is they're just different providers and different logos. One thing to bear in mind when you've got your health insurance here in Charlotte, North Carolina, is whether it's covered by Atrium or Novant, or if you've got a policy that has both of them together. While Florida and North Carolina do rank a little bit higher on average cost for healthcare when compared to the rest of the nation, there is still exceptional healthcare in both states. Where you're going to see your major differences against Florida is the fact that you can get same-day appointments. And in fact, even if you're scheduling an MRI, you're not going to be weeks out, and some can get you in same day or same week, which is a big deal, especially if you have an injury or something that truly needs to be looked at. And we've seen an increase in the number of doctors, nurses, RNs, and more that are having their specialties here in Charlotte. Now, this is part and due to the expansion of the healthcare system in Charlotte. Anywhere you go, you're going to see an urgent care, an emergency room, an outpost is basically what I look at it as when it's the middle of nowhere. But you will have some hospital system anywhere you look around the Charlotte region. And this includes those areas that were once more rural. Now, the nice thing about this, again, if you need emergency care, it's available, but it also keeps our waits in the waiting room shorter. And because we have more general practitioners and specialized medicine, you are going to have shorter waits when it comes to getting appointments. Now, while Charlotte is a hub for everything healthcare, and we have some phenomenal doctors that even are in specialties like neurological and cardiac, we are just up the road, just 2 hours from Duke Medical. Now, Duke Medical is an incredible hospital and hospital system, which has what I would consider the more specialized medicine. Now, this is if you have an injury or something going on with you that no one really knows what's going on, that's where you go. And it's just 2 hours away. So if you were to live in Charlotte and you do have something that comes up, including any kind of cancers, you're going to get amazing care in Charlotte. And if you need something extra, you're just up the road. Now, again, healthcare costs do vary, especially depending upon your health and your history of health. But I would say Charlotte is going to prevent you from waiting and get you the adequate care that you deserve. Number 8 on the list has to do with population. Now, when I was doing some research a couple of months ago, I found out that there are over 1,200 people moving to Florida every day. Now, when compared with North Carolina, where we have 250 people moving here per day, that is a drastic difference. But here's another thing to think about. We in North Carolina have more land that can actually be lived on than Florida. In fact, because of the Everglades, there is a limit to how many square miles of actual buildable land there is available in the Florida region. Now, if we're looking at a per square mile of population, Florida has 404 people per square mile. When compared with North Carolina at 209 people per square mile per the 2018 census, that is a glaring difference, meaning you're gonna have the opportunity to spread out a little bit. Now, North Carolina is growing and has grown every single year, year after year, as every other state has. In 2023, we saw a 1.3 increase in population for the entire state. Now, a majority of the people that are moving to North Carolina do end up moving to the Charlotte region. In fact, about 150 of the 250 moving here per day are moving to Charlotte. Now, the nice thing about Charlotte and our population, we have the opportunity for growth and expansion. Unlike many other states and many other cities across the country, we have the opportunity for growth because of our location. While we're flanked by rivers and lakes to the north, south, and west, we have the ability to expand past these lakes and outward from our center of Charlotte. Now, one of the many benefits to our location is where we intersect South Carolina. That's right, the Fort Mill, Rock Hill areas are almost considered a part of Charlotte, and that's why they're called the Carolina Panthers for football, not the North Carolina Panthers. We share our teams, we share our border, and there's a lot of people that cross over that border to pop into Charlotte or down to South Carolina to live and to work. While the differences are very minute between South Carolina and North Carolina, and we are a border city, they are things that you maybe want to consider, such as slightly lower property taxes in South Carolina and slightly lower income taxes in North Carolina. Now, of course, it's up to you to make the choice, but when it comes to population, we're able to spread out and go further east, west, north, and south. And with that is going to become more property, less cost to you if you're purchasing a home, and more opportunity in the future. Now, Charlotte is expanding quickly. And in fact, in the area that I live, just 20 years ago, it was an old country road with nothing up here. Now, heavily populated with some incredible shopping centers, amazing food, including Trader Joe's for grocery stores, by the way. This area has become a hub, and we're going to see this growth continue over and over again as Charlotte expands. Now, are we going to see another Beltline? I don't know, but it could happen sooner than we think. Number 7 on the list, let's talk a little bit about the housing market. Now, I know that Florida and North Carolina both are drastically different when it comes to the housing market, as in many cases, Florida homes are still just literally running off the shelves, while other areas are sitting far longer than you would have expected. Now, Charlotte is no different. If a property is properly priced and in a great location, you're going to expect that the home will probably sell a lot faster. But we are seeing about 30 days on market for an average days on market in this region. Now, with that being said, especially for those of you thinking about relocating, the nice thing is sellers are open to contingent offers. What does that mean? It means if you're looking to sell your home in Florida and make the move to Charlotte, North Carolina, sellers are open to accepting your offer before your home is under contract in Florida. Now, that's going to give you a lot of options because while we can close on a home as short as 21 days, if we are signing a contingent offer, in many cases, we could go ahead and expand the closing to as far as 60 days. This is going to give you the opportunity to get your Florida home sold and make the move without any hitch in your step. Now, when it comes to multiple offer situations, they do still happen. But in many cases, if you see a home that's been sitting on the market for a little while, more than 30 days, there is the possibility that you could get the home for a lesser price. Now, this is not going to be guaranteed, as there's a lot of different things to negotiate in North Carolina with regards to the price, concessions, closing dates, as well as due diligence and earnest money. But all of it rolled in together, while we're still a competitive market, there are still deals to be had, which is going to be a good position, especially if you're still looking to sell. Number 6, let's take a look at the economy and business growth. Now, when we're looking at a strong economy, we are looking at increases of jobs, decrease of unemployment, and increase in property values, especially residential. Now, here's the good news. You're going to see strong economies and markets in both Miami and all parts of Florida, honestly, during my research, as well as all areas of North Carolina, especially Charlotte, where there's major hubs for business, including banking and healthcare. Now, in addition, Charlotte is also seeing major job growth in aviation. And you probably wouldn't have thought that. We've got several municipal and smaller airports in the area, aside from Charlotte Douglas. So where's the major difference? Well, I will say that as of right now, Florida is still outpacing Charlotte when it comes to unemployment and including job growth, but both of them are going in the right direction. So if you're looking at making a lateral move when it comes to business and the economy, and you don't want to have to take a step back when making a move to a new area when it comes to that, Charlotte would be an ideal location to make that move. Next, let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, taxes. Now, if you're like me, you hate taxes, and you probably also live in Florida because you don't pay for as many things as other people do in other states. But one area that is going to get you, especially if you live in a city, especially if you live in Miami, the current rate of property taxes is 2.06%. Now, of course, this is vastly different from many other areas of the country, including New York, where you'll probably pay more on your taxes than you will on your mortgage per month. But if you're looking to make the move to Charlotte, North Carolina, you probably want to know what your all-in dollar amount is, and taxes are a part of that. Now, our taxes in Charlotte are broken up into two. One is going to be the city tax, and the other is the county tax. Now, many times you'll hear people refer to this area as Char-Mec or Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Charlotte is the city, Mecklenburg is the county. But if you take a look at the map, Mecklenburg encompasses pretty much all of Charlotte encompasses almost all of Mecklenburg County, aside from Matthews, Mint Hill, and Huntersville, as well as a little bit of Pineville. That being said, though, this is where the phrase Char-Mex comes from. So if you're in the city of Charlotte, you're absolutely in Mecklenburg County. And if that's the case, you are going to pay both taxes. Now, don't faint yet. Here's what that looks like. The city rate is 0.4586, and the county rate is 0.8387. This makes a total tax rate of 1.2973. So a lot less than Miami in that area. Now, you may be in a different area of Florida, and that's awesome. If you are only paying the county tax here in Charlotte, it's 0.83. And in fact, of course, if you're outside of the city of Charlotte, the taxes are going to be a little bit lower. Now, I mentioned earlier that South Carolina does have slightly lower taxes. Well, in this case, if we're taking a look at Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is just under the border, under North Carolina, you're going to be looking at a tax rate of 0.81%. Definitely lower. Now, we are going to see another big difference between North and South Carolina is in your income taxes. Now, while South Carolina is lower on property taxes, North Carolina is lower on income taxes. Now, the breakdown goes like this, and I found this information on communityfinder.com, which broke down the differences between North Carolina and South Carolina income taxes. North Carolina income tax rate is at 4.75, but is going to continue to reduce every single year until 2027, when it'll reach 3.99. Now, this is a flat tax. It doesn't matter what the income is. It's a flat tax on your income. Now, South Carolina does it a little different. In fact, they have a graduated scale that has 3 different income levels, and here's how it works. Now, Tier 1 is going to be those that earn less than $3,200 a year. Tier 2, where you're going to be taxed 3%, you'll be taxed 3% on anything $3,200 to $16,000. And then Tier 3, which is 6.5%, and this will be taxed on anything over $16,000. Now, there is legislation coming down that might reduce those top tiers to 6% in the top tier instead of 6.5, but it hasn't been passed yet. So the question lies, are you going to have a better benefit living in North Carolina with the income taxes or South Carolina? Do you want a bigger house? Well, it might be more taxes if you live in North Carolina. Maybe South Carolina is for you. Either which way you slice it, both states have their benefits, but both of them are growing in economy and both of them have decent tax brackets. So you can't go wrong either way. Number 4 on the list is master plan and gated communities. Now, I do know that in Florida, gated communities are everywhere. In fact, you can live in a median-sized home and a median income, and you're going to have a community that's gated. Now, for some of my clients that have expressed this to me, some of it comes down to crime and things of that nature as to why gates are there. I'm going to tell you, we don't have many planned communities at all, master plans, and we really don't have many gated communities unless you're in the upper multi-million-dollar properties. And even then, there are only certain neighborhoods that have a gate. So you might be wondering why there aren't more gated communities. Well, part of it does have to do with crime. We don't have much of it. But it also has to do with privacy. We are far more spread out than many other areas of Florida. So you're going to have beautiful private neighborhoods, even without a gate. You're not really going to have people driving through that don't belong there. And when it comes to master plan communities, there aren't many of those either. Now, our first master plan community in Charlotte was Highland Creek. I actually did a video on this a couple of years ago. Highland Creek is to the northeast of Charlotte, just outside the Beltline, back when it was just an old country road to get there. Now, since then, it has grown into a bustling area with shopping and dining and easy access to 77, 45, and I-85, making it the perfect location, especially if you're in real estate and need to drive all across the region. Now, while Highland Creek was started in the late 90s, early 2000s, they continued building into the mid-2000s as it continued to expand. Since then, you've seen other branch-off neighborhoods such as Skybrook, Moss Creek, and others, which have great school districts and more. Now, Highland Creek, what made that a master plan community is the fact that it had schools, it had childcare, it had golf courses, and it even had easy access to grocery stores and things of that nature. But the grocery stores weren't in the community. And I know some Florida neighborhoods do have that. The second master plan community is down in the Palisades near Lake 𝗬𝗎. Now, this is going to be on the North Carolina side. So if you look right across Lake 𝗬𝗎 to the town of Lake 𝗬𝗎, that's where it is. Now, once again, this master plan community is absolutely gorgeous. They started building in the late 2000s and are still building today. Each neighborhood within this actual master plan community has its own vibe, its own builder, and its own price range. Now, the major draw to a master plan community like this is going to be the schools. All of the schools are top rated, from the elementary and middle school all the way up to the high school. with equestrian centers, swimming, and more, this is an exceptional community to live in. So what other master plan communities do we have? Well, there's not many. But what I can tell you is most of the neighborhoods, or should I say subdivisions, in the Charlotte and surrounding region are going to have things like amenity centers, pools, and places where you and your family can go out and have some fun. While it's not made up of thousands of homes, you're always going to be within about 5 to 10 minutes of grocery stores, shopping, and dining, and easy access to entertainment. So it's not necessarily needed to stay in your own little bubble. Instead, here in the Carolinas, we encourage you to get out and meet your neighbor, even if they're in a different development. Now, what I will add to this is although there aren't many master planned communities, golf carts are encouraged in many of the communities here, especially if it's larger. So you will see golf carts in many of these developments throughout the Charlotte region. Number 3 on the list, traffic. All right, so I get this a lot. Kayla, what's the traffic like in Charlotte? Well, like any major city, we have traffic. It happens. But as someone who grew up in New York and someone who's visited Miami and Orlando, it is nothing compared to that. Now, 5 o'clock traffic, you are going to have some slowdowns. You're going to have some of those beautiful little burgundy lines on your Google Maps as you're driving if there's an accident. But as a whole, you're not going to see major traffic consistently, and it's avoidable. One of the most wonderful things about Charlotte is there's always another route to get where you're going. So when you're looking at Charlotte, you've got the 485 belt, and there's some slowdowns to the south and to the east. There's going to be a few slowdowns on I-85, and the major slowdowns are going to be on I-77. Now, with that, of course, you're going to have your side roads and smaller roads that go all throughout Charlotte, especially in South Charlotte. You're going to see slowdowns in the busiest times of the day. I hate to say it, but if you're coming through on a Saturday or Sunday, it's not like any other major city where you're going to be stopped. Instead, you're going to keep on flowing on through. I've never had an issue making it all the way from North Charlotte, the northeast side near Highland Creek, all the way to South Park in 30 minutes. So if you're looking for a city with way less traffic than what you're probably used to, Charlotte is definitely going to fit the bill. Number 2 on the list, and this will probably hit home for many of you Floridians, hurricanes and major weather. We don't get hurricanes. We just don't. Even when the most recent one, Helene, came through and tragically stalled out over the mountains, we still didn't see the damage from that. In fact, the last major hurricane or hurricane that caused damage throughout the city, the last time that happened was Hugo in 1989. So yeah, we've gone about 35 years without a major hurricane. And I would say it's pretty safe to say we just don't get them. Now, with that being said, we do sometimes get extreme weather. In fact, in summer, sometimes we'll get some extreme thunderstorms that will produce hail. And we did have a massive hailstorm that came through Fort Mill, South Carolina, just last year. Now, with that storm, nobody was injured horribly. There were some dented cars and a few people got some new roofs. But other than that, it wasn't catastrophic damage. Not like the kind of hail that you would see sometimes in the Texas area. Now, when it comes to those thunderstorms, they're going to roll in with a fury and roll out within a few minutes, not sticking around for long, causing significant damage. Now, if you're wondering about other extreme weather like tornadoes and blizzards and things of that nature, well, we don't get those either. You guys in Florida got more tornadoes during a single hurricane than we've had in North Carolina over several years. Now, we do get tornadoes occasionally that touch down, but again, not something that's making any kind of significant damage. Maybe a tree gets knocked down, maybe a roof gets pulled up a little bit, but that's about it. We're not talking life-altering, life-ending events. When it comes to flooding, we really don't see that either. Now, if you are along the side of, let's say, the Catawba River or even Lake 𝗲𝗎, these would be the areas that you would have the highest chances of flooding, as Lake Norman and Duke Energy release water from Lake Norman if it gets too high. Now, these are usually warned in advance, and usually they do it slowly so it doesn't cause damage or flooding. But in events like extreme rain up in the mountains, you can see those water levels rise. With that being said, you will know before you buy your property whether or not you're in danger of flooding, and you'll probably be required to have flood insurance. One area on a lake that will never flood, knock on wood, is Lake Norman. Biggest reason for that is because Duke Energy won't let it flood. See, the dam that sits south of Lake Norman is actually holding back a lot of water. And if that dam were to fail, it would cause catastrophic damage all the way through South Carolina into Georgia and beyond. And because of that, it would also be extremely costly. So Duke Energy does everything that it can to prevent that dam from failing, which includes sometimes lowering those lake levels on Lake Norman in advance of storms coming through so they can prevent anything like that ever happening. And snow. No, you really don't get it. In fact, our last substantial snow was about 8 inches. I know, to anybody from New York, that's nothing. We would still be going to school. But here, it shut the entire city down for 2 days. And in fact, because we really don't have the equipment to clear the roads, everybody just had to wait until it melted and went away, which was 2 days later. Now, let me tell you when this happened. This was 10 years ago. And while we have had some minor snowfall, a half an inch here, an inch there, we haven't had anything substantial since 2014. So don't worry about breaking out those shovels anytime soon. When it comes to extreme weather, Charlotte is kind of in the perfect location. Far enough away from the beach that we don't get hurricanes, but we can still visit. Far enough away from the north so we don't get blizzards. And just enough terrain where we don't get tornadoes. So if you're tired of that extreme weather hitting you every year, Charlotte may be the place to be. Now, you stuck around to the very end, and as I promised, there is some information that you need when it comes to your finances, and it has to do with insurance. Now, I keep hearing it over and over and over from clients of mine moving from the Florida area that say my insurance rates are insane. I have crazy flood coverage that I don't think I need. My car insurance is through the roof. There's only one insurer that'll insure my home. Sometimes they're dropped completely and don't know what to do. Here's the thing. We don't have that issue here. Not only do we have some of the lowest home insurance prices in the country, but we are way outpacing Florida when it comes to coverage. And while there have been minor increases in coverage for your vehicles, a lot of that having to do with those that are not covered at all, making up the difference. Sorry, y'all. And because we don't get major storms here, like hurricanes, we don't have those extra riders like hurricane policies. I had a client the other day asking me about what the cost for hurricane coverage was, and I said, well, I'm going to say $0 because you don't actually need it because we don't get that kind of weather here. So if you're looking to escape the prices that just don't seem to be going anywhere but up, North Carolina may be the best option for you, especially if you want all the other benefits and the lower temperatures and still get changing of seasons and have lower home prices and a really good economy. I could go on and on. The point is, Florida is an incredible state, a state that I would probably like to live in someday. But when we look at all the facts and you're looking to save some money and reduce your cost for living, then Charlotte may be the best next move that you maybe didn't see coming. So I want to hear your opinion. Did I miss something? Drop it in the comments below. I am always open to learning more. And if you live in Florida, I want to hear from you. What are some of the other major challenges that you're seeing in Florida right now? And I'll give you my opinion or the facts or both as to what's going on in North Carolina. Now, if you got value from this video and you want to know everything about Charlotte, North Carolina and South Carolina, be sure to like and subscribe. And I really do get calls, texts, emails, Zoom invites from people just like you looking to make the move. So if that's you, drop down into the description below. All of my contact information is there. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days from now, moving across the world, across the country, or just across town, I'm looking forward to making your move everything you want it to be. So until next time, I look forward to showing you around town. So you're making the move. There's a lot of videos that you can be watching, like this one right here, or maybe even this one. Really either one of these, but honestly, watch both of them because they're gonna help you make the move. Go ahead, pick one. They're both really good.